can be made available. It can be made available.
Are rural lots in that inventory?
No. The rural lots were, we had an inventory of rural lots prepared as part of the agricultural study, and they were counted as part of that. And so we have the lots of record, I guess, that are in the rural area. And there's a number, that number, I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's in the agricultural land report.
I guess another concern that I have with this, Mr. Chair, is that like the speed that it's going to come to the public. It took, these agencies to come back to our staff 5 months, yet we're going to give the public in Norfolk County 2 weeks. And I hope they've been following it, because this is a very small report compared to the grand master official plan that we're going to jam down their throats. I don't feel that there's not enough time, I don't think, for you to roll out in 2 weeks a very good process to get public input on this. We know we had people come up here before, and I'm just concerned that we're just going to just jam this through. I still don't know what's the rush, because we're going to have the public input in 2 weeks, and we want to send it all back for January 16th. Is that how that's supposed to work?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Height. There is no real rush per se, but these items that our consultant has outlined tonight are items that we have had clear communication with, people that have been involved with the official plan review process to date. Mary and Matt have and will be continuing to speak with our Ag Advisory Board and TDAB and those other groups that have had valuable input to date. So we feel we're in a good position to keep that communication going, and we also know that there are businesses and residents in Norfolk County that are looking for the new official plan. There are policies such as the 10-year sliding date for surpluses that will assist those in the county, and they are waiting for those policies to come into effect. I'll use Scott's as an example. They have been waiting for a long time for this change in agricultural land to industrial land. And you'll see within the next few weeks an application coming to you separately from Scott's, because they simply can't wait any longer. So although there is no immediate rush, we feel as community planning staff that the timelines are appropriate and we can get the public information and input to you as council in an appropriate timeline.
Okay, but like, Mr. Chair, through you to planning, if you've been tying up Scott's for months based on this official plan, why wouldn't you just bring forward an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw and be done with it? Why would you hold up these developers? I know, Pam, there are a lot of good things in here, but we haven't gotten a ton of public feedback, and there's a bunch of things in here I think are going to cause us real problems. One of them, for example, is site plan control number 94 in your list here. You won't be able to move in Norfolk County. You won't be able to build, I don't know, a hot dog cooking fire without a site plan control when I read this, and it just got a whole lot worse. It says here, site plan control shall now not apply except in cases where specifically required by this plan, such as where an on-farm diversified or agriculture-related commercial or industrial use is proposed. From the sounds of it, I guess residential is the only ones not under site plan control. That costs money. That's a process that takes time. This is going to stunt development. You won't be able to move any applications forward, and will require 5 more planners. I don't understand why you would want to add so many restrictions at a time when Norfolk County has finally got some growth moving with it.
Somebody wish to respond?
Yeah, I was looking to the others to respond. We already have the site plan control bylaw in place, and it does regulate many places, as Councillor Height has mentioned. But yes, the lower scale intensity of residential uses, it does not. The reason that the province is suggesting or recommending that we add or agriculture-related commercial or industrial uses has to do with when members of the public come on sites and making sure that they're safe, keeping the county liabilities down to make sure things are safe on those sites. Again, as we've mentioned before, you can give us direction not to add this, and that's your prerogative.
I sure could, I guess, Mr. Chair, but I'd like to hear from the public first, so I'll wait and see what comes from those meetings.
Okay, and we'll also wait and see what the other councillors have to say. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize to staff for having my back to them, but I've got to refer to my notes as we go here. I guess my first question is on page 4 of the report, first large paragraph there. I see the words in italics. These are ministry comments, I think, that the ministry or the province seems to include all of class 4 through 7 lands as well to be considered as prime agricultural lands. That's my first question.
Okay, we'll get you an answer.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
And is that reflected in our current draft of our OP amendments? I mean, I've always thought that we classified lands 1, 2, and 3 as prime, and that lands 4 to 7 were not considered to be prime agricultural, or thusly designated in our OP.
Through Mr. Chair, the provincial policy statement says that where prime agricultural lands predominate, and that's the predominant classification in the county is class 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
There are pockets of class 4 and lower lands. Generally, quite often they're hazard lands or provincially significant wetlands. But their opinion is that it's the class 1 to 3 predominate, and that all of the lands outside of these settlement areas are agricultural areas.
So have we had to modify our OP in response to this comment significantly? I'm just not sure what the implications of that comment are in our latest revisions to this OP.
Through Mr. Chair, we have not adopted that approach on the land use schedule.
Okay, all right.
Because we still have designations such as parks and open space, hazard lands, PSWs, an institutional designation, and even some major public infrastructure that are in or outside of settlement areas. So we have not accepted that.
Okay, thank you. And my final question on that one, Mr. Chairman, relates to our Lakeshore Special Policy area, and I so clearly remember that we went through an exercise with it identifying on a map areas that were considered class 1, 2, and 3, and then areas even down to the individual lots that were considered lower priority agricultural lands in the Lakeshore Special Policy area. Again, does this comment from the ministry have any implications at this point for that lower priority agricultural area designation in the Lakeshore Special Policy document?
Through Mr. Chair, they have not recommended any changes to the Lakeshore Secondary Plan.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, this is a quick one. My personal comment, for what it's worth, on page 5 of 11, where staff are asking for support for increasing the target for infilling and intensification from 20 to 25%. I do support that. I want to jump for a moment to the information Mary and Matt gave us just at the end, and that is this idea of we want to increase our industrial land in two communities, namely Cortland and Delhi, and we've talked about why. And at the top of page 8 of the report, second paragraph, I'm just going to quote it quickly. The province has suggested the council could consider the removal of an equal amount of industrial land from a settlement area in order for us to redesignate as industrial the areas that we want in those two communities. And I agree with that principle. But to me, that almost sounds like a lot swap policy. So I'm going to jump back to the lot swap thing for a moment, and that's exactly what we were asking to do with moving a lot within an existing agricultural parcel from point A to point B, still within the same agricultural property, and no net loss technically. And yet the ministry is telling us they will not agree with that. This is now on the top of page 6. So my simple question to staff is, what are the implications, Mary or Matt, if we choose to stick to our guns on that one? It's a very small point, but it's one that I know we labored over a lot, and staff thought we had a compromise that should be acceptable. If we leave that in, what's the worst case scenario?
Yeah, just to recap, the lot swap proposal that we had was that it could be permitted under a number of conditions, but basically it would be where the agricultural productivity of that land would be improved.
Correct.
Through the lot swap. And, but it has been turned down. If you want to stick to your guns, as Mary has said, you risk having a modification to the plan as part of the ministry's approval document. So it'd be a minister's modification, which if you still feel strongly about, it's appealable to the Ontario Municipal Board.
Well, I'm not so sure I'd do that, Mr. Chairman, but I guess I don't see much difference between us caving in this evening and saying, okay, take that out, or leaving it in and allowing the ministry to make a modification and they take it out. I'd almost feel better doing it that way than I would agreeing to change it. It sounds a lot like something else we talked about earlier this evening, where we changed something because we knew the implications if we didn't, and got ourselves into some difficulty. But I'll wait and hear what other colleagues have to say about that, but that's a small one, and I'd personally like to see that left in. My final comment, Mr. Chair, or question, is now back in regards to the 18.97 hectares at the top of page 9 that we would like to add to the industrial area. I agree with my colleague, Councillor Columbus, but I would suggest that we would simply find 18.97 hectares rather of existing industrial land that could be reclassified as agriculture, not 24.12. And I might target some of the industrial land in Simcoe, where you've identified 11.3. Well, let's reduce that by whatever it is, about 5 hectares, in order to have it equal amount in and equal amount out. Is that feasible?
To you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's feasible.
Okay. And I do support that in principle, Mr. Chairman, subject to an actual equal for equal rather than 19 for 24. Thank you.
Just over 20. You just have another.
Are you relinquishing the floor now?
Well,
Okay, then we'd like to go to Councillor Brunton.
just
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm on page 63 of our agenda, and I guess my question is regarding stormwater management. Right in the middle of the page, it says add section 894. Where is that? Or don't we have that?
Sorry, through the chair, what page is that in the report? Because we don't have your agenda.
Page 3 of
Thank you.
your report. About halfway down, it says regarding stormwater management, 894F.
Right in the middle of that page.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've been looking for that. Where is it, or isn't it in there yet?
It's not in the document that you have. That if you looked at the draft amendment that was presented to council back in, I guess it was June, it's not in that document, but it would be in the draft amendment that we present to the public. So it's not in the document at this point.
So what, you recall, what did it mean, or what did it say?
It's, basically, there's a,
Well-
I have to get the actual bylaw.
Well,
I,
is it to do with climate?
this policy that we're recommending there is specifically addressing climate.
Okay,
The other policies that we're looking at deal with the condition of stormwater and the various policies relating to stormwater management.
okay, well, the reason I, like, I kind of look at this climate stuff, like, to me, I mean, I support global warming. I guess I believe in global warming, but I'm not a scientist by any means, but it's very obvious to me that we don't have near the severe weather we used to have. I think in the 70s and 80s, we had all kinds of flooding. And we don't have that. We had a tornado in Waterford. We had a small twister come through the one side of, we don't see, I mean, we've had high winds, but if anything, it's drier in the winter and hotter in the summer, but anyway, it's just a comment, so. Now, if I may go to page 68 or page 8 of the report, and it refers to Simcoe, the 11.3 hectares, and I go right back to page 184 at the back, and it shows the area they refer to, the 11.3 hectares and the 3.76 hectares. And I really wonder, I assume that 11.3 was industrial, correct?
Sorry, that's all in designated industrial today.
Okay, well, I seem to bring this up more than once, but we've always, in order for that whole area to develop, to me, like, they need roads in there, and that was the purpose of buying the railway land way back, to run that road across. That's the 3.76 hectares. That was the purpose of buying that. Now, are you saying we don't need that anymore? I mean, the idea was Ireland, Donnelly, and even Northgate were to go north at some point and open up those lands for development. Right now, we had a hard time putting Gilbertson Drive north years ago to get that opened up.
To you, Mr. Chair, that's, in the industrial report, that entire area was recommended for redesignation to agriculture. And based on comments at previous meetings, that point was raised, that you might want to have a right-of-way in that area. So that's why we split it up into two areas. One, the 3.76 would allow, if you keep that within the urban area, that would allow for that right-of-way to be constructed if you want to keep that option open. So that's why we split that parcel up.
Okay, and, as far as ever designating some of that as agriculture, well, if you've ever walked that, it's pretty hard to farm that piece of land through there. There's pretty big hills through there and on each side of the old railway. And the railway bed itself wouldn't be very good for agriculture. It's all gravel or cinder block, whatever. But I guess the 11.3 acres, you're saying change that back to agriculture, but it's now industrial, right?
It's designated industrial, yes.
Why would we want to lose that?
It's,
Because the way I read it, the province is not saying you have to do that, they're suggesting you might want to do that. Correct?
yeah, the issue is you have an oversupply of industrial land in the county, well beyond what you need for the next 20 years. It was thought that that parcel of land where access at this point in time is difficult, would be an area within Simcoe that could be redesignated to agriculture.
Well, I guess if you're asking, I wouldn't support it. Why would we not leave it industrial? People farm that section anyways, let them farm it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it'd be a lot harder to redesignate it at some point to industrial if we take that designation off, would it not?
To redesignate it in the future would have to be based on demonstrated need, and you would have to look at the impact on agriculture as one of your conditions. So the issue though is that, and then the consideration before council is, do you want to give up any land that is currently designated industrial to accommodate the expansions at Scott's and Titan Trailers? So that's one of the parcels that is put forward as part of that trade-off.
Well, I'm certainly not the expert on that, but to me, I wouldn't want to lose that as industrial land. That's my opinion of it. Now, it will be farmed as agriculture in the midterm. So, and as far as the rest, that's 3.7. I think that's got to be maintained as a future corridor. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Councillor Height.
Are you ready for a motion, Mr. Chair?
I certainly am.
Excellent. I am as well. So it's going to get a little complicated, however.
Our young lady will look after.
Okay. So I've numbered them all, Ms. Deputy Clerk. So number 1, that council report DCS 17-89 be received as information. And then go down to 6. And that Norfolk County Council direct staff to pursue the options to reduce industrial designations and related urban area boundaries outlined in staff report DCS 1789 to address the concerns expressed by the MMA regarding proposed expansions of the Cortland and Delhi urban boundaries. 7, and that...
Just wait a minute. Better get 6 first. You okay?
You're
She's
good
got
with
it.
that one, right?
Okay.
There was no changes there. And that public comments have not been received and considered as part of this decision. Down to 8. And further, that council directs staff to hold an open house on January 16th to provide the community time to review and comment on the proposed policy changes. 9. And further, that the agriculture and TDAB committees be asked for input. Or referred to the
She'd like you read
committees.
the last one again, please. The last one.
And further, that the AG and TDAB committees be asked for input, or referred to for their input. Something to that effect.
Okay. That is a motion. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Geisens has seconded. Anyone want it repeated? And then we can have discussion. Everybody knows it. All right, Councillor Black, you're first.
Okay, well, I won't support it. I don't think, I don't want to lose, just as Councillor Brunton was talking about earlier, losing any industrial land, I guess, anywhere. I don't want to lose it in Simcoe. It's there for a reason, and Doug's right about the corridor. Like, he knows probably better than anybody back in the days when he was our public works director. I mean, I can remember him bringing those reports to us about the railway and about roads going north, Northgate, Ireland, Donley, or not, yeah, is it Donley? Yeah, Donley, all going north there. So I don't think that's a good idea, so I can't support that. Involving TDAB, I mean, if you're going to involve TDAB, I know there's other groups out there, the Heritage Committee or whatever, other committees that would be interested in reviewing this as well. I guess if you're going to be fair and let one do it, you should let them all do it. So I'll forward it to everyone, I guess. So I'm just trying to be fair to all the other groups that I know they're going to ask me, because I'm represent council on the Heritage Committee, how come we didn't get to review this? Or, and I'm not sure I can't remember some of the other, anyway, there's two that I can't support the motion the way it is.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Brunton?
I'm not clear on Councillor Height's motion, but are you, I'm on page 61, but it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, be the sixth one on the list there? 6, you're saying the total, that to me tells me the total acreage that I just identified there is going to be removed? That would be 14, 15 something hectares? Am I reading that right?
Go ahead.
As I understand it, Councillor Brunn, it says here, and that Norfolk County Council directs staff to pursue the options to reduce industrial designations. I don't need that word. I can live without that word. I'm looking for options for industrial. I'm sure staff could bring us all kinds of stuff if they're looking specifically for a reduction. We can do some wordsmithing on that right now.
Well, I'm not clear what you're saying, though.
I'm just looking for, it says in there that either way, when we pass, if we were to pass this entire motion, it says that Norfolk County Council directs staff to pursue the options to reduce industrial designations and related urban areas outlined in the staff report regarding the pros.
Well, I guess my idea would be to remove that particular motion, period.
Make it so, Deputy Clerk. We'll delete.
Because if I may, Mr. Chairman, the province
You all right with
said,
that, Councillor Geisen, since you were the seconder?
No, I will not, I take part of that out, but it also takes out proposed expansion of the Portland and Valley urban
Yeah.
area, and that I can't.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do it at the Simcoe, as Councilor Black is.
I guess it don't matter how you do it, I guess. I'm wondering, you can leave it in, but I just don't want to lose the industrial land.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow or other, like I said,
Yeah. Give me 1 sec.
Councillor Oliver?
Mr. Chair, this might help just a little bit on this point that we're arguing about here. Back to staff, and again, I'm looking at the top of page 8 of the report, second paragraph, and I read this before. In reference to the proposed industrial expansions, the province has suggested council could consider the removal of an equal amount of industrial land from somewhere. So my question to staff is, what are the implications? Did the province speak as strongly about this one as they did about the lot swap? In other words, they will not agree to increasing the industrial areas in Cortland and Delhi for two very, very active businesses that wish to expand. They won't agree to that, full stop, unless we reduce industrial land by an equal amount someplace else. That's my question.
Spam?
Too many mics on.
There we go. Through you to the chair. It's hard, Councillor Oliver, to decipher what the province will do. It was certainly a very strong suggestion in our meetings with MMA. And what I may suggest to council is that if you want to add to a maximum total of 18.97 hectares, staff could certainly come back at the public meeting with options to that. The options that are provided at the top of page 9 are based on fabric parcels, and that's why you have the amounts that you do. But we could definitely, if you want the 18.97 hectares, we could provide some options for you at public meeting.
Mr. Chair, to Pam. Pam, you're of the professional opinion that if we don't do something, the ministry will not agree to the 2 increased industrial designations in Cortland and Delhi. Is that your opinion?
Through the chair, again, it's hard to say, but I do know that we have 2 businesses that are very deserving and wanting of those lands.
Absolutely.
And I think it would be in our best interest as a municipality to find an option
To
for
find a
MMA
way,
to
okay,
support.
all right. All right, and I agree with that, Mr. Chairman, so now I'll back off and go back to the motions, but I think a compromise might be to leave that paragraph 6 in, but say to a maximum of 18.97 hectares to be removed somewhere else in the county. That helps a little bit, not much, I know, for Councillor Black and Councillor Brunton, but thank you.
I think we're back to you, Councillor Height. We have a motion on the floor that you
Yeah,
have
thank you,
moved.
Mr.
We don't
Chair.
have a seconder yet.
I think I've come up with something that should
Oh,
work for
Councillor Geisler
everybody,
says second. Okay, sorry.
including staff. So on the 6th item, Deputy Clerk, it says, "And that Norfolk County Council direct staff to pursue the options for industrial designations to address the concerns expressed by MMA regarding the proposed expansions of the Cortland and Delhi urban boundaries." Not sure if I could ask planning staff, will that encompass some of the Simcoe things and take care of the concerns, or should I delete out the Cortland and Delhi? I don't,
Through you, the chair, that's Councillor Height, your want, but again, I would maybe suggest adding to a maximum total of 18.97 hectares.
you can add that in your options report,
We could, yes.
all right? But I don't want to see like Simcoe get gypped on this either, like, we could just say regarding the proposed expansions, and that would give you some leeway.
As long as the seconder is okay with that, it will be a motion that he is.
And then further to that, Mr. Chair, upon Councillor Black's consideration to add the Heritage Committee in there, I know there were a lot of comments in here geared to them, and I missed them.
You throw that in? Okay, it's been put in. Mayor Luke, still on this potential motion?
Yes,
Okay.
just 2 comments. Kind of sort of support most of the motion, kind of sort of. On page 8, I read this a little differently, and I certainly was somewhat concerned that the province has so much concern about, well, how much industrial zone land we have in Norfolk County. I find it almost petty that, well, if you want a Nissan dealer up on the 3 acres on the Queensway, you better find somewhere else. What else is that land good for to Norfolk County, other than open space? I mean, this is ridiculous. On page 8, I read, in reference to the proposed industrial land expansions, and this is all the expansions, the province has suggested that council could consider the removal of equal amounts. So I read that it's up to us. And I don't know, I'd hate to cut off our nose to spite our face. Personally, and I'm not a planner, but I think we need some more industrial land zoned in strategic areas, and I'm thinking Cortland, Delhi, and wherever. The second thing is speaking to the motion that I say kind of sort of will support. I want to ask Mary or Matt or Pam, I'm concerned in a different way about the timelines, the last part of the motion that's proposed on 61. It seems to me we have had open houses. It seems to me we have had public input. It seems to me we're going to have another open house for we're down to the short strokes here. This is feedback from the different ministries. I don't think we're in too bad a shape. I know staff have worked hours and hours and hours and hours in our consultant. I don't have a problem now. It's here. So in 2 weeks, December 6th, or 2.5 weeks, or whenever, I don't know how far, 2 weeks, let's say. Another week in November, another week in December. I think that gives lots of people lots of time to go through this. I got it Friday afternoon and read through the whole document since Friday, and now it's Tuesday.
And I think we should get on with this, and I think that there still is another chance to come after December 6th to this council on January the 16th. So I have a problem with that part of the motion in delaying this. Let's get on with this. There's still opportunity. There has been opportunity, Mr. Chair, for public input. We're not trying to ram anything through here, but let's get on with this. We're down to the nitty-gritty. So I'm not going to support it with that date line on it, the motion. Other than that, I could live with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Columbus.
Mr. Chairman, like Mayor Luke, that one second paragraph on page 8 of the report has been mentioned before. In reference to the proposed industrial land expansions the province has suggested council could consider. To me, though, that's kind of very vague. They're kind of playing a game with us here, like suggested and could consider. You know, maybe we should hang tight on this and not take any land out of industrial expansion. I just wonder, this is a pretty important document that affects our development and our livelihood of our people, jobs. For example, Scott's, lots of jobs, Titan Trailers, lots of jobs. Affects a lot of people. And if it's so important, why isn't somebody from MMA here at the podium discussing this with us, being it's that important? I just wonder, who does our planning staff meet with at MMA and OMAF and MNRF and all those others?
I think that's a fair question, and I'm sure they will speak to it.
Mr. Chair, we met with Eric Boyd, David Stubbs, and Drew Crinklaw. So that's OMAFRA staff and 2 from MMA.
Would they come to address council with respect to this important document?
Through the chair, we didn't ask, but certainly we could ask. I mean, they're going to get your responses eventually here, and if you've got more questions, I mean, they do. I'm looking at, I don't have a page number, but when they finish those 95 comments and they go into the second table about the settlement boundaries, on the second side, they talk about that they're available to continue to work with Norfolk County as they go through the process. And above it, they say, MMA and OMAFRA's view is that several of the proposed boundary expansions are not consistent with the policies of the PPS outlined above. And so that's where I used the word they wanted us to consider, and that was kind of what I gathered from the meeting. They're not going to tell us at this point you must, but what they were very strong about is they wanted to see no net loss of agricultural land. And how we do it is up to Norfolk County.
Any further comment? Councillor Hike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking to the motion now, the timeline, yes, we did have public input. We had people come in here and we made decisions for them, like expanding hamlets and boundaries so they could go for their lots, and now that's all going to be undone if the motion as it's worded was passed. So it would be like throwing out all of their input. This council fought hard to try to get staff to come back with something we felt would work with the people. We didn't get there. So will they come back in a week from now or 2 weeks from now? I'm not sure, but I do know that our committees won't have time to comment on it in 2 weeks. Right? Like, you know, this has been a 5-year plan. It's taken its time coming. So for me, some of the things I see in here, like I really dislike a lot, and that's the site plan control for if you want to build a doghouse even. You know, I'd like to see the lot inventories by hamlets, urban and rural by ward. Because honestly, right now, Norfolk is in a growth spurt. We need that growth to continue. We've all lived in Norfolk County all our lives, and we know the recession lasted a lot longer in Norfolk County than it did elsewhere. So strike while the iron is hot. Our hamlets are growing. You drive around now, you see new lots, you see new houses. That increases the tax base. That increases opportunity for businesses in the hamlets. Right now, by not having the growth, banks close. Businesses suffer. There's less activities and less taxes and things. We need to get this right to help those hamlets and help our communities grow, Mr. Chair. And an extra month or two to get some more input, I can deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Oliver was next, and then you, Mayor Luke.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, I too don't think I can support Councillor Height's motion as it's worded. I don't agree with his changing to the timelines. I agree with the comments from the mayor. I think we have done many, many, many weeks and months of consultation. I think we have to kind of move this process forward. There's also 2 or 3 of the components of the original recommendation that I think all of us would support, and that is staff have suggested a response regarding their comment 8, which means we don't agree with what they want to do, and staff, nor do staff. They've suggested recommendations that deal with it. The minimum target increase for infill. Is Councillor Height against that as well, that you aren't prepared to support that paragraph being left in motion? So I can't support his motion as it is. I think we would have been better off to start with the recommendation that's there, and if there's a couple of things that need to be tweaked on it, tweak it. But he's really gutted it, if you like, too seriously for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Luke, you are next, and then Councillor Brown.
Well, 2 things. I agree with the comment. The recommendation was if it was on the table as presented and then tweak it or amend it in that, But, Mr. Chair, thank you for letting me speak a second time. On the timeline again, I like it, public input. The more we get, the better. We've had public input. The fight now is not between us, council, and the public. We sent off, after public meetings, our draft. The comments have come back. The fight now is between us and the ministry, the way I see it. That's where we're at this point. We're also, before we go back at it, taking it to the public again in 2 weeks. I don't think we're wrong. I think we want to move this thing along. Otherwise, the next official plan review will be ready to start, and we won't even have this one completed. There comes a point we can't please the public on everything. I'm sure there's stuff that's come back here that the public will say, no, I don't accept that. Neither will the ministry, in approving our official plan, please this council 100%. Let's get on with this.
Thank you. Councillor Brunton, I think you were next.
Well, all I'm going to say, Mr. Chairman, is I can't believe the province would say no to Titan Trailers or Scott's when they look at the employment they're creating. Like, what the heck? Well, what are they there for? What are the province there for? Do they want to promote, make jobs and everything? It doesn't make sense. I like Councillor Columbus's idea. Get them down here and we'll tell them what we think. And I don't read that clause on page 8 to say you must. I said might consider that. And if they can't help with a little bit of expansions, especially when things are going great out there, take them out and show them the place. They probably don't know where it is.
Okay, I'm going to ask the clerk to read the motion that is on the floor at the present time, and you will then have an opportunity to voice your opinions, not verbally, with a hand. Go ahead, please.
Through the chair, I have that Councillor Height moved and Councillor Geisen seconded that Council Report DCS 1789 be received as information, and that Norfolk County Council direct staff to pursue options for industrial designations to address the concerns of the MMA as outlined in Staff Report DCS 1789, and further that public comments have not yet been received and considered as part of this decision, but will come from the open house and upcoming public meeting, and further that Council directs staff to hold an open house on January 16, 2018, to provide the community time to review and comment on the proposed policy changes, and further that the Ag, TDAB, and Heritage Committees be consulted for input.
That is the motion. I don't think we're going to ask for any debate. Those in favor of the motion as it was read by the Deputy Clerk. I count 2. Those opposed. I count more than 2. Motion fails. Mayor Luke.
Let's keep going here. See if we can wrap this up before midnight. The recommendations, we'll call them 1 through 8, is printed. I'll move those to get things started if we can get a seconder.
Councillor Black.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor that we receive the information and approve it as it is presented to us. Councillor Columbus, I think you were first, followed by Councillor
Yes.
Oliver.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make an amendment to that, and it's that number 6 again, that reads, and I'll give you the reading that I think would fit, and that Norfolk County Council directs staff to pursue options to address concerns expressed by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs regarding the proposed expansions of the Cortland and Delhi urban boundaries. Period.
Wait till I see if the deputy clerk has that. You have that, or you need to repeat it? She has it. Anything else?
Okay, that kind of leaves it wide open, and it doesn't talk about taking industrial land from other areas. It just says that to pursue options, and staff knows what we mean by that.
All right. Are there any other? I think it was you, Councillor Oliver, you were next.
Need a second.
You will need, we'll need a second there for Councillor Columbus's. Councillor Brunton has seconded. So we can continue. Or you can vote on it.
If there's no further amendments, you can vote on it.
Councillor Oliver, are you putting forth another amendment or
No,
suggestion?
I'm not, Mr. Chairman. I was, but I like the wording that Councillor Columbus has put forward regarding paragraph 6, so I'll forget mine and support his amendment.
Okay. Any further speakers? Seeing none. All those who are in favor of the motion that is presented right now, hands up, please. Yeah, and including the amendment, yes. All right? That carries. Now, I look at the clock and see... Oh, now the main motion. Councillor, you probably want a break soon, and when you ask for a break, I'm not going to give you one. All right. We need the main motion?
You can just say, see if it be the main motion as amended.
All those in favor of the main motion as amended? That is carried. Let us have a 15-minute break. Oh, that's good. You sit right there and plan for the next part. Cool. It's much more fun up there. It is. I can sleep up there.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. with hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling